that's wonderful.
I completed the program here and went to Baruch.
We did.
And then I went to
That's exciting.
Can't see you. Lower.
That's
That's good.
Yeah, you gotta go slow. You know, when I was there last school, this woman was trying to get into the PhD program, and she just practicing around apples. It's like, she was sorry. Okay.
Good.
Yeah, you gotta go slow. You know, when I was there last school, this woman was trying to get into the PhD program, and she just practicing around apples.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Can everybody hear me? Wonderful.
Good.
You know, when I was there.
I'm gonna lower the bar so everyone can.
No.
Oh, I'm just gonna say what I want to say.
You should have me go first.
Going first.
Shot. Abraham? No. Nice to meet you.
I'm gonna lower the bar so I'm just making.
No.
Oh, I'm just gonna say what I want to say.
You should have me go first.
Going first. Video's good. I just want to
Shot. Abraham?
Yeah, can you send me the
I'm gonna lower the bar so I'm just making.
No.
Oh, I'm just gonna say what I want to say.
You should have me go first.
Video's good. I just want to
Shot. Abraham?
Yeah, can you send me the
I'm gonna lower the bar so I'm just making. Oh, I'm just gonna say what I want to say.
You should have me go first.
Video's good. I just want to
Shot. Abraham?
Yeah, can you send me the
I'm gonna lower the bar so I'm just making. Oh, I'm just gonna say what I want to say.
You should have me go first.
Video's good. I just want to
Shot. Abraham?
Yeah, can you send me the
I'm gonna lower the bar so I'm just making. Oh, I'm just gonna say what I want to say.
You should have me go first.
Video's good. I just want
Shot. Abraham?
Yeah, can you send me the
I'm gonna lower the bar so I'm just making. Oh, I'm just gonna say what I want to say.
You should have me go first.
Video's good. I just want
Shot. Abraham?
Can you send me the
I'm gonna lower the bar so I'm just making. Oh, I'm just gonna say what I want to say. You should have me go first. Video's good. I just want
Shot.
There's just a lot of questing, like, which is, it would be fine if, like, if I was functioning on something like that.
Which is good because they bring a different perspective.
You're good.
It's okay?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And it's gonna be you now.
It's part of it, it's student education.
Is it gonna be archive itself?
Yeah, so when I have it on the YouTube, so once it's done streaming, it just saves it. And so it's just on the channel. It's not broadcasted, but if you know the channel.
This is great. Can we actually place this in the middle or ish?
If it reaches, the
It all
problem
depends
is,
on.
yeah, I can do it.
Right.
Whereas like in office, I guess every hour.
Oh, because it's shorter, I see.
Yeah, so
They just need to like direct power.
I see. Can we actually drag this here? Do you think it's a problem?
Hi, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you too. Big time.
Perfect, perfect.
One.
This is great. I don't think a lot of people. Oh my gosh. So that happens. You guys okay?
Yeah, I submitted. So you see my application there?
Sorry.
I don't know I sent the it was here, so I looked at that like sometimes my email is like
Do you want to get everybody in like, or like that? Straight. That. It's like better be. Is there any way that's like, with the tripod? Is it that way? But you can see it's just like, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
What's your architecture?
Do the legs extend differently?
Longer? Is there a way to like level the
Have you? Yeah, pretty much.
better?
You see different results for videos that have 3/8 or 32/8.
Luckily, this one is.
Line it up to the corners.
After the meeting, they probably got us to at the beginning of my
Oh, it also depends on the size.
Well, I'm gonna tell people.
You really gotta, like, you have to enjoy all the parts. You have to enjoy the creation of the actual building the design or scale on the other side. So, like, one side. Are there solutions for so it's a contractor.
How are you?
This day.
Like I said, like why did
Okay, I think we're gonna get started. Thank you all for coming. This is our first Pedagogy Marketplace. Thank you for coming. Thank you to Professor Parks for organizing this event along with the other lineup for the fall. So hope to see you there. Thank you. So tonight's event, the idea for the event came out of discussions about how we need to talk more and share ideas about teaching and the challenges of teaching in and also for new faculty and old faculty to get together and share their experiences and ideas. So today we're going to have kind of a very informal event. We think we have 4 people who officially signed up, but we're hoping that everyone jumps in. The format will be that all the presenters will present, and then we can open it up for discussion at the end. Also, after the presentations, if anyone wants to informally present, we encourage you to just jump up and say, do in the classroom. And then we'll just talk after. So thank you again for coming. And I don't know if we have a order that we're presenting in. Okay. Thank you.
People shot, but I just want to lower the bar, so.
They ordered all
that
It
straight?
could be as simple as just showing your mirror board.
Okay, I can't. Well, I have to be able to let go of it.
Just turn the whole thing.
What do you mean?
Turn the stand. Turn the stand. Turn the stand. It should all be good.
Okay.
And the mic should work too now.
Huh?
The mic should work too.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. That's good.
It's crooked.
So I think we only have 4 presenters tonight, so we have a little more time than we thought. So it's giving myself excuse to go over 5 minutes. So I'm Eugene Singlehart. I've been teaching design here for the last 5 semesters. I'd like to introduce you to design philosophy. This is something I presented at this conference I did earlier this year. So just to give you a brief overview of our design studio, Design 3 sophomore students, it's their 3rd design studio.
How'd you do that?
We ask students
Live?
to look at socioeconomic factors in manufacturing and then have them develop that into architecture form. And at the end, they design a community center. And you can see all the different mediums from collages, diagrams, physical models, site analysis, and drawings and visualizations. So my tool is less about the content and more about the external tool to motivate students and expose them to peer learning. So some of the challenges I experienced as soon as I got onboarded to this institution: space issues. Students work individually at home, and I think that's partially due to the fact that design studios don't have independent studio space. It's more shared, so multiple sections share the studio, and different design studios share the studio space. And then long commute hours, so we did survey on how far they live, and most of them actually live further away than 1 hour commute distance. And then, therefore, students basically lack in peer contact, and also their foundation studio, so they actually lack understanding in collaborative works in general. But these are more structural issues, and I was thinking that these take longer time to fix. So I was thinking of a more informal software we can add on to this problem so we can fix it temporarily or enhance their learning. So some of the opportunities, it's very diverse. So we have a lot of opportunities for cross-cultural learning, and they share similar obstacles. So I think that really helps because they can work together. And this actually, this tool that I'm going to introduce actually came from Professor Shelley Smith's idea, because I was consulting her on motivating students, and she told me about forming teams within students, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll make this into a more formalized idea, structured exercise. So design of the tool. So basically, my tool is to promote peer learning through team formation and multiple team activities. So it starts with a survey. So I actually hand out these Google Form survey the very first class, and it asks about their background and their work commitment outside of school, and their commute hours, and their interests and capabilities, and such things. It's voluntary, so I'm not forcing students to do it, but most of them actually engage with it. And then I have them introduce themselves on Miro board informally, so it's more casual. Another thing I do is I observe them in the first 2 weeks and then grade their technical skills or social skills, something that instructors can do. And then I compile this qualitative survey data and then use AI. So I use ChatGPT to form a diverse group where they can complement each other. So on the right side, you can see I asked ChatGPT to form groups based on 30% commitment, 20% workload, 20% interpersonal skills, 20% technical skills, and 10% diversity. And then ChatGPT will use the data on the left to come up with permutations. And then I add personal touch to find out the best team. And obviously, it's not going to be the most ideal group, but I think it at least provides you unbiased or maybe logic for the decision of team forming. And then I assign them to teams, and then they have fun with naming their teams. They always have a lot of fun with it. You can see Power Rangers, Design Divas, Shin Tacos with emoji in it. And they always giggle when I call them by team name, so it kind of like loosens, the strict environment, rigid environment. I also make them work on their schedule together, so they understand their outside work commitment, and then make sure they allocate hours for their design studios and enough time for them to engage with each other. And then that leads to multiple activities. So notably pinup peer review. So we do pinups, but in this studio, we actually tested out peer reviews. We use this technique called rose, bud, and thorn. So basically 3 colors of sticky notes, and then one is strength, one is room for improvement, and the last one is weakness. And they leave notes for each other, and sometimes anonymously, so they're not shy about sharing their thoughts. And I run group crits based on these teams, and then sometimes if someone's having some software issues, then I'll just assign the teammate to help them. Site model building actually is pretty handy with teams. I can just parse out the site, and then they just build portions of it, and then we just combine all together. We do mock reviews, and this is more like a rehearsal for final review, and they test out their presentation skills. So when they present in front of other classmates actually vote using Miroboard, and then I usually tally up based on the teams, and then the winning team gets rewarded. Sometimes like it's a group crit order, they go crazy with it. They want to go, at a certain time. Sometimes I get them Gucci coffee from Devotion. They like it too. So yeah, all these pretty simple, and maybe you guys have all thought about it, but I was testing out as a formalized exercise, and wrote a paper and submitted a paper to this conference, national conference for beginning design student 40, which happened in Raleigh, North Carolina, and then you can see our colleagues there. So there were 2 teams from our school, if I remember correctly, and then we had a lot of fun. I think it was worth it. And our proceedings can be found on this website. And the next one's actually happening in Albuquerque, the University of New Mexico. And if you're a fan of Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, might as well check it out. What's next? So I'm actually testing out AI tools for student work this time. And I'm going to show you a Miroboard real quick. So we always have students draft this mission statement or narrative before they go into design, and then we didn't want to shy away from using AI in that process. As long as they document the process and come up with a logic or workflow, we will allow students to use AI to draft their mission statement. And then later on, more visual stuff, we're thinking of different ways, but we don't know the answers for it. So we'd love to revisit this. If this event becomes a recurring thing, then we'll share the results. And I'd love to hear other teaching techniques on AI too today. Thank you very much. So we have 3 more. I'm just going to follow the order of filing. That's okay. So is Emran here? Oh, he said he's going to be late, so let's maybe begin with Michael.
Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Woods. This is my 3rd semester teaching here, and in my 3rd semester teaching, So I wanted to, one aspect of that I wanted to focus on, how can we reinforce important concepts and what makes a good party? And so that's something that's maybe pretty complicated for students to understand. I think it takes a while, at least in, going into the third semester of teaching Design 5, not all get it yet, some much better than others, different kind of levels of understanding, but that's obviously something really important to design as an architect. So, and it gets more complicated. We teach an adaptive reuse project in Design 5, so that makes it even more complicated to think about what that is, what's new, what's old, how are they related. So I was wondering, so thinking about, why I'm teaching them, I'm explaining to them what it is. Maybe I'm drawing on the board, maybe I'm showing them some examples on slides, but I wonder, where do they look? Who is the authority? So besides us, I guess, right? But what are they thinking at? And how are they absorbing this kind of information? I know that different people learn in really different ways. Maybe they need, some people need different formats, words or pictures or different combinations of the two, maybe videos, maybe other things. Thinking about besides the professor, then are they looking at books, maybe not websites, or they're asking their classmates about this, or looking at videos. I put magazines up there. That was something in the old days we used to look at, right? So, but now probably students would never look at magazines or understand something like this. So I wondered about that and tried to think about different things. So, here's an example of 101 things I learned in architecture school book. And, to me anyways, they have a pretty good idea of, and they show different examples, which is helpful, what a party or party diagram is. So I thought, well, that's a good start for understanding this. I don't have any idea if students ever look at anything like this, but okay, this is one way of explaining that to them. I asked AI what it was. I got a reasonably good answer. So there, and I also found a diagram. Here's one from OMA of a party diagram. Again, I think each of us probably even have a little different idea or maybe definition of what a party or party diagram is or should be, and it's certainly different for different kinds of projects. But that's part of it too, and understanding that and interpreting things in different ways. So, here's a slide I took from a presentation that I made to the class. My definition, anyways, of party is an organizing thought or decision behind an architect's design presented in the form of a party diagram. So the term comes from party pre, which means decision taken. So I emphasize the decision taken part of it. You have to decide what you're going to do. Because in our class, anyways, one of the things that they create really before they do the party diagram is a 3D bubble diagram. It's not the same. So the party is the architectural elements, not the individual program spaces. So that's something that's important for them to understand. So this is an example here from a project that they assigned. So I tried something else last semester. I went to the internet and I looked at some of their travel videos before, but Arca Marathon is a couple of Australian architects that do a pretty good job with some videos. I shared this one. They actually have two parts to their Let's Party On video here. The first one really has, look it up, is a bit better. It goes on for 15, maybe 18 minutes or something. It's a little long. I think, come on, guys, let's get to the point here. But they're entertaining. They're humorous. It's not too dry or anything. And so I tried that. I think that seemed to help some of the students. They at least enjoyed watching the video in class. But I think for something that's this complicated, you sort of have to go at it in different ways. And if you're not familiar with this, they look at a couple projects, but one of them is this landmark house, and they sort of tell us or tell everyone what they think is the party of this particular project here. And it's something simple, and they explain it, I think, in reasonably good ways, which I think helps the students to understand. So maybe one, two, well, what else do we need? And so besides being an architect, I like to make short films and videos. So I thought, well, is there something else that I could do or that we could do that would help students understand this or other concepts? concepts in the form of short form video. There might be really great videos of architects explaining their projects or a really good lecture, but if it's 30 minutes or hour or something, we would really watch it. And so how can we maybe leverage some other forms of learning? Thanks.
I'm sorry about that. I was in my review, so I rushed to as fast as I can. So I can present now.
Yeah, it's your shot.
Let me plug the file. Yeah. So, hi everyone. My name is Thrs, and this semester I'm teaching design for here. So I would like to talk about an experiment, like a quick study that I did like a few years ago with my students at Pratt. So the origin story of this study was basically two of my first year students decided to use AI, and they were kind of shy. At first they didn't want to tell me because they thought that they were cheating. But after I asked them questions, I realized they did like something really interesting, and it can be applicable to first year curriculum or like other years very easily. And at that year, also Pratt shared this statement on AI and basically asked for faculty to find some novel ways to incorporate this emerging technology to teaching methods. And like thinking about it and criticizing and understanding of AI in teaching environments. So simply, if I jump to the second slide in here, these are my students' work who kind of invented this quick methodology. During the first year syllabus, we are asking them to hybrid two proto-architectural objects together and create a third hybrid model. And they decided to use Midjourney's blend. Well, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Midjourney, but Midjourney is a generative AI tool, and it creates visuals. If you upload two images and ask to blend them together based on its algorithm and based on its database, it just blends them. And these are the immediate results that my students generated from their two axonometric perspectives. The other student decided to combine his model with his photos in Roosevelt Island, so it generates these interesting like render-like visuals. And it was amazing for me, and I kind of inspired from this method. So the simple diagram of that method is two axons use Midjourney blend option and achieve hybrid but in syllabus, we also share all these design vocabulary with our students, which often overlook, as you may say from your own experiences. And I thought about it, and I realized Midjourney has also another option where you can inform this blend action with some design vocabulary, so you can use words or use prompts to kind of navigate that blending with certain design elements. And I decided to create this simple method. And in an extracurricular way, I tested with my first year students. So first I asked them to create like two very simplistic architect view, axonometric perspectives, and they just first use the blend option. And then I asked them to incorporate this design vocabulary of their choice to this result, and immediately we started to see a lot of interesting forms and ideas. In that sense, like it is great because by using this, they will understand how to control that latent space of architecture and possibilities. Some students decided to use their model photos, and it also generates a lot of interesting um, results. But for this study, I decided to create a survey, which I grew a few questions before the usage of AI and after the usage of AI. And my first question and kind of consent form in a way is like, are you okay with sharing your design data with this model? And all of them like participated, never asked any questions around that, as we all do when we use like new apps or new, I don't know, mail accounts. We just like hit next button without like looking terms and conditions. And almost half of them told me that they use AI, but I think most of them using not visual generation models, but more like a ChatGPT type of models where they can get help for their homeworks, as they say. And then I asked these questions after seeing and witnessing those results, like most of them are likely to use these methodologies in their life. And probably when they graduated, they will get hired by those skills. So, yeah, like there are some insights, and we can also like draw a lot of conclusions through that. But I just wanted to share like this few pages with you, and that's it. Thank you so much.
So, much like our studio presentations, the most unprepared student is going last. This happened maybe 2 hours ago, so my name's not even on it, which means I can completely not claim this. So, Wake Me Up in Three Brick Courses is a quote that lives in my mind from my second year of college at IIT. I went to IIT, which, as you know, is kind of school, not anymore so much, but it was back then. Spent a lot of time hand drafting. This drawing down here is 100 hours of work. It's like 100,000 bricks or something. I don't even remember, but I still have nightmares with this drawing. But I guess the larger thing here is so much of studio for me was this kind of healthy or unhealthy competition between my peers. So much of our learning didn't actually come from our professors, which is kind of tough, but they would give us a prompt, they would show us some work, and would say, go ahead. And then the rest of the semester was them saying, that's not quite finished, so can you do it again? And Eugene spoke about this a bit earlier, where students don't get to stay here. They don't have a studio space. They don't get to be here all the time. So they're not immersed in it or steeped in it like a lot of us were. So that's in and of itself a challenge. So learning is going to be different. So this was one part of the learning for me, which was this kind of like brutal kind of boot camp in architecture where it was just demands and expectations. The other side of that was kind of celebration and joy. You would get to the end of something and either be recognized because you had a good project, or your project ended up in our school, you're out of an open house or printed somewhere. So there was this kind of, which I know I'm describing as Stockholm syndrome, so forgive me. That's a conversation unto itself, but it was this kind of modulation between expectations and then recognition, and always maybe chasing it. And so then how do we kind of develop this idea of studio culture, or this feeling of camaraderie that Eugene's doing? I didn't really think about it, but Eugene did, we're testing it out. But I thought, how can we kind of get into this? How can we get people to be excited about wanting to learn about design, not from me, but from each other and from within themselves? Where can they go? What can they do? So I kind of tried to put together a couple of tools. I figured we need to have a studio environment which is really friendly and that promotes people talking to each other, talking to me. So I didn't put this on here, but we start class with just the question of the day. What's your favorite neighborhood in New York? Why? Do you hate New York? Do you want to leave? Do you want to stay? Do you go anywhere? And it just starts people talking the first 5 minutes of class. It's usually pretty animated. I know it's kind of like teaching middle school kids, but at least that's the tack there. Then I'll try and pair that with at least one charrette a semester. So it's usually not connected to the studio project. It's just something to kind of run some design muscles, get them to practice a bit, and I'll tie that with a prize. So if you win, it's either fancy coffee or Blick gift cards, which nobody wants, but I try and give them away anyway. And then I think Miro is the one good thing that maybe came out of the pandemic, which is it is this kind of great visual collection of everyone's work. So I try and get them to update it, look to it, and be a place where you can gauge where you are. Not to make you feel bad, but to kind of say, okay, if I'm not there yet, I gotta push a little harder. And then to look outside of school and look outside of me or my lessons or my kind of amateur lectures, I do try and play videos or bring books into class where it's like, read this magazine, let's watch these videos on Easy about these other architects. Just so, we're teaching design studios, so I guess my head is in this mode of architecture with a capital A. How can you be interested in design? What can get you excited about that? And it's these people telling stories about their movies. Then hopefully they'll talk about it. On the celebration and joy side of that, I decided to run my kind of final presentation differently. Rather than doing one presentation, 5 jurors, 5 critics, 1 student, I just have them all pin up. It's like competition style. And everyone presents at the same time. So the professors, the critics float around. Maybe 5. There was one time I ended up with 10 reviewers, which was not planned, so we got 3 people. But other times, it's one student, 1 critic, and they get to spend a lot of time with each other. And then at the end of that, we'll kind of, this is the unkind part of this, we'll vote. We'll say, which are the top 5 exemplary projects? We'll hand out awards. They'll usually be books. At one point, it was gift cards, and then I was like, this is not good. Let me just give out some books. And that's kind of what I've been doing. It's the other reason I started doing this, I realized students were so nervous. A lot of the ideas that they had, a lot of work they put in never got appreciated, never got mentioned. And this kind of one-on-one, more discussion-based presentation feels a little bit more comfortable. I don't want to say casual, because it's not meant to be casual, but it is meant to be comfortable. And it's also how I'm always thinking about how am I practicing out in the real world. I'm talking to a lot of clients one-on-one. It's right here. It's not a panel, although that does happen. Maybe I'm not preparing them for that, but hopefully the rest of you are. That's it. So not much there, but thank you for your time. Oh, I didn't actually tell you guys the story. Sorry, real quick. So when we were drawing this floor plan, we used to end up sleeping on these couches. And on like the 5th day of being at Crown Hall, one of my friends was going to fall asleep on the couch at 3 in the morning. He's like, hey, before you go, I need you to wake me up with 3 brick posts. You can give it a try.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Without presentation.
Yeah, yeah,
without
of course.
text.
I don't want to use the mic. My name is Abraham Gonzalez. I have been teaching at City Tech since 2023. I am a former student of City Tech, so it's a deeper connection to school. I will bring a very different perspective to what we just saw because my class is still remote, and it is a history and practice class, a sustainability class, which is a very interesting topic. So I believe that's the good part of the class. It's a very contemporary topic. It's a very new topic, and I have been able to engage students through conversation. So, based on my experience from different colleges, I decided to tailor this class into one of the classes that I enjoy the most as a student, and it's talking. It is discussion, it is bringing your own experience, and it is sharing your knowledge with each other. Because, as I said, we have challenges that the class is still remote, so thus we have a very lack of attendance and participation. So I have been thinking, how can I make this class, besides asking them to turn on the camera, besides asking them to be prepared to be engaged and have a conversation. My first argument is to tell them that this is one of those classes to enjoy. We have math, we have different subjects that we have to, that they're required and they have to fulfill. And I tell them this class used to be optional when I was a student. Now it's mandatory not only for architecture students but also for construction and civil engineering students. So I do have students with different backgrounds. So again, they bring different perspectives, which is great. So I usually tell them to allow this class to be an enjoyable space. Bring your knowledge and share it with the classmates, and that's why I decided to have the class based on readings. And we have books for the class. We will read the chapter, then they will have to provide one page, providing their point of view from the chapter, and then we will have a topic for the class, and they will find an article from a different source and read it and provide a summary and comments. And the half of the class will be the discussion of the book, slash the discussion of the article, and then I will have my presentation on the topic of the class. Then I realized the difficulty writing papers, and something as simple as emails. And I would like to share something right now that happened this week. So I have one of the students reaching out. So I always tell them, I'm also a student, I'm very approachable. Please send me a message. Please let me know that you're not coming. My presentation is based on your papers. I need you to come. My class is organized based on all the papers that you already submitted. Please come, because if I have you a second, my class will go if you're not here. So I try to be very approachable to them. I try to.
So they can hear on the live. Thank you.
I didn't want to. So I always tell them to, I am very approachable, so just send me a message, just let me know what is happening. We all have different things, because unfortunately there is a tendency just not to show up to class. So I receive emails as, no hi, no good morning, no nothing. Starting tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. and continuing until October 3rd, I will be attending a wedding rehearsal as part of the groomsmen group. Since my attendance is required, I might be late for the class or absent altogether, depending on when the rehearsal concludes. No thank you, no have a good night, no thank you for your flexibility. So, besides dealing with the topic and planning a lecture, we have to deal with this. So that's what I wanted to come here and see what are your different approaches. Perhaps you have many more years of experience of how to deal with disengagement of students. Unfortunately, we know that most of our students are from different communities where most of them work. So it is hard to be on top of them and telling them, please be on time, please submit this on time when we know that they come to work. So we also have to be flexible as instructors. But I would like to learn more. I would like to learn from you. What have you done? What are the different approaches? What are the different strategies that you have? I am very excited to be part of City Tech, and I was sharing with Sanjeev years ago that after being a student here at City Tech, I went to Baruch and I went to City College, and I was able to see different perspectives from CUNY school. And then I was just like, I would like my City Tech, my architecture department to level up. So that's it. That's why I'm here, excited to share, excited to hear from you, and whatever you have to share, I will be more than happy to receive it. Thank you. Oh, okay, so before being an architecture student, I was part of CLIP, which is the CUNY Language Immersion Program, and it is a program dedicated for ENL students, English as a new language. Even though I was born in Brooklyn, I grew up in Colombia. So I came back after completing my high school education. So when I came to City Tech, you have to apply to CUNY, and once they realize that your math or your English levels are low, they place you in this program. I took CLIP in 2012, 2013, and it's 2025, and I'm still going to the class. I still visit the class. Yeah, I still visit the class because, unfortunately, most of the students see that program as a waste of time. They just want to be in college. They don't want to be in English classes. Most of them are newcomers, but a lot of them are also, they were born and they grew up here, but the English level is not high enough for college. So I'm still going. They're currently in the building where all the dentistry used to be, the Thrs building. And I share my experience with them. I tell them it is possible. There is a way to complete this program and be able to complete your credit classes, because that's the topic when you're in CLIP. Everybody just wants to take credit classes because you're taking that CLIP program that is just for English, because you need to pass the CATW, the CUNY Writing Assessment Test. So currently the president of City Tech is planning an event with former CLIP students to share their experience and to share how effective this program is. So I was sharing with Najib that I am planning to speak in this event and just to share my experience as a former CLIP student, as a former City Tech student, and as a current faculty of City Tech. So that's a brief summary. Thank you.
Have anyone else that wants to share anything? So I guess, should we have the presenters come up and then we can have a little Q&A? I would make a circle, but that's it. Yeah.
Michael, I have a question for you. You're talking about party diagrams. How do we teach them to our students? I guess I'm also curious about how do we use them professionally. Big is using them for presentations, right? So that sometimes happens after. But there's architecture in terms of we teach our students these are the deliverables that you have to give me at the end of the semester. So same with us, we get a project. Or in our training, we're trained to be skilled at creating these deliverables, whether construction drawings, presentations, images, whatever. And then we're trained in the process, right? So party is kind of process, right? So I think it's interesting to think about making it relevant to them. Like, how are you going to use this in your everyday life? And I wonder if that's part of the consideration in your presentation.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think it would be. I'd try and use examples if I can where architect is presenting it or using it. I would say in practice, there's some really good examples, but I think we all know that it's not often used very well, and we can think of a lot of examples ourselves. And I also try and tell them too that it's not just something that we do at the beginning and then put in the drawer. It's a way of continually testing your design. So when you get further along, does it still make sense? Does it still read? Is it still good, or did you have those items that you get? So I think that's part of it. So I think there's a lot we can do to kind of reinforce that with them, but it's not something that they understand. Maybe public-private space, natural light, or something else. But this is something it takes a lot of iteration, and I think I'm discovering too it takes a lot of going at it in different ways. Not only because people learn differently, but maybe there's another way or another time it'll click. So, or maybe
it won't.
Yeah. But we keep trying.
The response to the email. What if you responded in a very similar language? No hi, no dear, no thank you at the end.
I actually am going to share a response.
I thought about it at the beginning, but then from my personal experience as a professional, I think that I should not reply like that. I should actually show them how it's supposed to be. So my reply was, hello, Corbett. Thank you for letting me know in advance, and congratulations to the couple. As a reminder, per our syllabus, no more than 2 absences are permitted during the semester, and participation and attendance are part of your grade. That said, I appreciate the heads up, and I want to help you to stay on track. Please note that there will be no classes scheduled for September 24th and October 1st, so you don't need to worry about those dates. However, we do have class on September 10 and September 17. Kindly let me know if you will be absent on either of these dates, so I can plan accordingly for class discussion. However, I would recommend submitting the homework on time and participating in the class discussion. If you want, I can help you and adjust the time for you to participate in the class discussion on the time that better fits your availability. Please confirm your plan so I can coordinate accordingly. Thank you. Best, Professor Gonzalez. And I will not allow myself to fall into that thing. And I also try to take this class, even though it's a history class, it's a sustainability class also. I encourage a lot of the students to continue their education. Most of them they just want to complete this program. They just want to be done with the bachelor's. And I was just like, no, bachelor's is just the beginning. You're just starting. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, you have to start thinking a master's. You have to start thinking which licenses you're going to get. So I start to, and I also always tell them, like, find tutors. If you don't know how to write, find tutors. This is the best time for you. Let me help you. Let me know how can I help you. We have a lot of resources. We have a lot of databases. We have a lot of tools that we can use to improve our academic experience, because college is to be enjoyable, not something to be suffering. So I also try to take the advantage of teaching this class to be like a kind of mentor to them, since I don't have the opportunity to have very creative tools like this, because that's not what we do in class. I try to use history and urban development of New York City and all the different sustainable features that we have in buildings and different aspects that they're very familiar with, in a way that they learn not only the topic of the class, but also how to keep growing academically and professionally and personally.
Thank you, all of you, for doing this. Is brilliant. Thank you, Professor Park, for setting this up. We need to keep doing this every semester, and I wish more. I expect more faculty will keep going up. I have a lot of questions, a lot. I mean, you brought up great stuff. But maybe to start with, how many people here went to a school that was a commuter program for architecture? Professor Zagaroli, a commuter school where you were going back and forth for school.
And we had no studio space either.
You had no studio space. I did half and half. You also did it.
Yeah.
So you were commuting back and forth?
Yeah. We work at home.
Yeah.
Although the critiques and the studio time, I don't know how it's here, but it was like everybody came with their work. The professor was there. Everybody showed their work, and everybody sat around and participated on the critique. So that's how the studios work over there. I'm from Venezuela. And I don't know how to do it here, but I teach an interior school of interior design, and they don't do it like that. And actually, the students are always, because I try to do it like that, it's like I want you to come to my class, show me your work, and everybody needs to see it, and everybody needs to participate. And because it's the same design, so it's the same project, so probably I'm gonna repeat myself. And what I say to one student also works for another student. And they don't like it. It's very difficult for me to make them do it. So I don't know how it's here, how do you guys do it here? So, this idea, because I think since we are in a commuter program, it changes how you process information, and I think all of you are grappling with new technologies and how to focus their attention, draw students into some conversation. And I wonder if you, it's very different if you go to a school and you're just focused on your schoolwork versus coming home and working or managing family, and then adding these complexities of AI tools, and the magnitude of options keep getting larger and larger. So it is hard to draw students out. I think your email demonstrates this sort of anonymity, like the student almost treats you like you're not a person anymore, which is very strange to me, but almost not a surprise based on the amount of information that everyone is trying to process. And so I wonder if you can talk about that, because there's pedagogy, data gathering, but there's also the stimulation that students have because it's commuter, and they are sometimes overstimulated. And in the first year programs, you have that millennial dead stare sometimes that is very intimidating, I think, in first year classes. So I wonder how you approach engagement, how you select and focus the data that you're going after.
Just want to say, I think they have to care, but like they have to be interested, because at the end of the day, if they're legitimately not interested, if your student's like, I have to go rehearse how to dance and not come to your class, I don't know if you can make him interested in sustainability or her interested in sustainability beyond, like, they have to intrinsically be interested as well. And I wonder if that's more discussions like this, more lectures, more tours, more why is this good? Why is this cool? Why should you give your time? Because it can't be the stick, right? It can't be, well, if you're not ready, I'm not going to talk to you. We're both going to end up in a bad place. I guess is my thinking on that. Yeah.
So I've also been struggling a lot with notions of autonomy and having like students being self-starters, and so something I've been testing a little bit for the last few semesters is that I think we've become so like final product oriented also as teachers, like in terms of the quality at the end, like yes, be messy, but we also like 9 renderings, 3 axonometer, like we have these like checklists, and we've created a lot of structure and guardrails to get them to that place. So like one example is our design for class. We have a series of assignments in order to get them to that place. But something we've been doing as a class that I've noticed has got them thinking is we go, instead of just giving them the exercise of the assignment, I ask them, well, what's the value of the assignment in relation to your project? Like, how many hours are you going to spend doing this? And then, we talk about the fact that, like, school is such a strange condition. We talk about the fact that you are paying me to give you hours and hours of work. And you go home and you go, okay, like everywhere else is different. So what are you investing on? So we try to really unpack the value. So something that's been nice also, because, we complain the students are not reading the assignments. So we go through them, and then they're like, well, there's times that they say, well, I don't see how this part of the assignment is going to help me in any way develop the project. So as a group, we edit the assignment in real time. So I think that something I'm trying to find more is places where the students are being critical of the process as well as the product that they're going through, and I think that that's really important. And then the other thing, I'm not always, we get so wrapped up in things, but when we have their reviews, the final reviews, I always include students as part of the jury that they're critics. So every week rotate the students, and the students participate, and they are always, so I want them to see that their input is just as valuable as a guest critic. But I think a lot of it, and having these, so I really appreciate your email, but I also, maybe you're being a little too flexible. Don't be so accommodating to the student. Try to find the middle ground. I mean, I'm not trying to be critical of, but I think like I do the same. Like I write a hyper professional email, but then I also talk to the students like, our job here is to prepare you to be a professional, and so you need to treat this class like your job. So if you come to me and you're like, oh, well, I'm sorry, but I have like 3 doctor's appointments for the next, 8 weeks, and I'm like, well, is this an emergency? Is there any way that the appointment cannot be, or is it just because it's like I don't know, like finding a place where like you're really starting to treat things like a professional, and like you're thinking that this is treated like a job, because you're also paying to get prepared so that when you're out there, you're a responsible employee. I mean, that was way.
Do you think first years respond to that?
So I would say, less so than the 4th year students, but I think so, because we're starting to, like, what I notice is, like everything we do, we have to like revisit the same conversations over and over again. But I think if we start to set up the expectation early, there's for sure some response. And like it's interesting, like on this conversation about the AI, we were going through the assignment, and we're trying to unpack it, and we use all this language that we're like unfamiliar. And I was actually saying, well, why don't you drop it into ChatGPT and ask it to simplify it for you? And they're like, what? that's a lot. So sometimes it's like they're always like to generate something, but it's like, oh, I can use this to actually help me, it was exactly what you did, right? Like you asked, like, what is this? Can you help me? Like, what's your definition? But there's this. I just want them to have more ownership. However we get them to engage. But I think that the more, and I'm not saying I'm successful at it in any way. I'm just trying all sorts of different ways of doing it. But I am recognizing that we need to move away from that checklist approach, and we need to find a way to get them to participate. So whether it's more of this like team engagement, I think that that's really helpful in thinking about those things. But yeah, I mean, I understand, right? Like, and I think you're in a particularly challenging place because your course is a support course sometimes, so like it's harder sometimes for them, like it's less credits, so that the students start to like when push comes to shove, right? Like where does the value come? But I think if there's a way where they really see the value in their growth, yeah.
Yes, I completely agree with you, and I would like to share my experiences from previous semesters. And I like the students to become more immersed in research. So I wanted to take all these classes as a research tool, as a research experience, because the full sustainability topic, I address it in a way that I work for DDC, Department of Design and Construction. So we, as a final project, we go to the SCAR, the Eastside Coastal Resiliency Project, and we take them there. And the full final assignment is a sustainable risk assignment of that place. So we have all these different instructions. So my main idea at the beginning when I started teaching back in 2023 was, okay, this is going to be a research focused class. I'm going to be very strict, and if you don't submit on time, because I was a student here, I know I seen students printing at 6 o'clock when the presentation is at 5:30. So I was like, no, I'm going to be very rigid, and it is at 6. This is the due date. 4 students drop the class. So then I was just like, I have to find that balance of being the rigid and strict professor that I would love to be, but also knowing the audience. So I completely agree with you, and that's why I decided to reply like that.
Hello. So to the point of the studio deliverables, one thing that I realize now as someone who does hiring for people who are coming out of school is that the graphics are nice, but they're really not a determinant for hiring. Mostly what I'm looking at when I'm thinking of somebody coming on board is, can they explain their idea well enough? Can they draw their idea well enough? Somebody in the office probably is already a good graphic person that's going to be doing all this stuff. I need someone that I can like explain a task to, or critically think about it, and then provide feedback on that task as they're looking through it. And that's like the golden person that I love. So yeah, I think. Oh, sorry, Chris Barrington. I'm teaching BT3 Tuesdays, Thursdays. Anyways, so yeah, I think coming out of school and then realizing that the criteria for success is really about critical thinking, I do question more why spending so much time on a high-res deliverable that, especially at this point, is sort of questionable as a content. Yeah.
I guess Claudia. I think it's super helpful. I'm going to stop talking after this, but I think it's super helpful to hear from you, right? Because we're trying to get them out there and get hired. And so much in the past is like, you got to have good drawings, you got to know how to draw, you got to know how to make a beautiful rendering because that'll get you hired. But that's not it, right? You need someone who's not going to give you a headache, who you give a task to and they'll figure it out. Critical thinking. So you said self-starter. I spoke to Sanjeev the other day in the office, and you were saying, like, we were talking a little bit about how does the school market itself, like who are we bringing through? And Sanjeev used the term hustlers. It's on YouTube now. But I do think it is interesting to think about, how do you even teach that? Can you teach it? How do you teach someone to be a self-starter? how do you teach someone like, okay, I've hit a roadblock, let me not stop, let me figure out a way around it? Can that be taught? So I don't know who this question is to.
As an eternal optimist, I want to share something I learned this summer teaching high school students. I basically work with students that we may get in maybe 2 years' time. And I shared this with Sanjeev before the semester started. Every summer, you think high school students, they're probably more or less the same, but it's every summer it's different. And one thing that I noticed this particular summer is going back to the checklist. They're all about checklists to the point where they become super transactional. If I don't correct this, how many points do I get off of my assignment? And then they determine whether it's worth spending the time or not. So at a recent weekend party, I had a conversation with somebody who's been teaching like 8th or 9th grade for past 10 years in New York City public high school system. And she says that tracks. That's how the DOE system has been changing. So even in middle school, even early as elementary school, middle school through high school, it's all basically checklist. So do I think that they have the ability to be the hustler, the self-starter? I think they have it because they're New York City kids. They've been sort of kind of in a way like taking that all away and trying to be molded into this system where it's easier to evaluate. Everything is about rubrics, right? And I love rubrics, but there is a point where it's like a little too much, right? I'm talking as a fan of it, right? So I think the first year or two is really about, well, you did it this way, but let's strip that away because that's not going to get you very far. So I think what we're talking about is how do we make them unlearn the way that they thought was the world, because the world doesn't work in rubrics at all, right? So that's just my, shared sort of experience from this summer.
So completely agree with that. Being as a father of an 8th grader, she gets more rubrics in a single course than we have in our entire curriculum. So from notebook, last semester, paper. So they aren't being trained that way. To that extent, the balance I find with a student like that, I would have been much shorter. Instead, just the first 2 sentences. Instead, well, course requires that you have this many absences exposed to failure. Leave it at that. And I wonder, I would suppose to you, do you think the student read your entire email? Because we'll probably answer questions that are in your email later on. So what I think what's clear here is that we do have an adjunct. Our adjuncts are basically go above beyond time and dedication. Just thank you for all the time. But to respond that way to every single student becomes difficult. So again, striking that balance between individualizing their education program for each student, but yet acting as a group, and that's always the struggle. The second half of the first year, teaching the students, second semester, each of one, we repeat ourselves, and no matter how many times I can give a student a chance to do something over, there's just no students that just won't. So I treat each student with the level they come at. So you can say, I can't be there, okay, can't be there. I'll take it. You're always welcome to come back. You're welcome to participate in project over. I always give students a chance to work over again. So whether it's improving it or even if it's late, if it's very, very late, of course not. But I said, you can do the work perfectly, but if it's going to be 6 weeks late, it's not going to get an A. But any chance to improve their education is my one. I'm curious to see how the semester goes out.
Hey, okay. So I think the true answer to Sanjeev's original question has a lot of layers, and it is hard for us to solve all these problems in different layers. But one thing that I realized, and by the way, I've been teaching last 3 years, so I consider myself as some sort of rookie in teaching field. But what I realize is these young people, they are lacking two very essential things. One of them is like autonomy. So in this level, after high school, I think you need to make your own decisions by yourself. So in most of the things that we are dealing in the architecture school is decision making. So we ask them to make, like justifiable decisions all the time. So maybe because of the high school education system in here and all around the world, they are expecting to be served for these type of decision making moments. So we need to give them options that they will select instead of they build their own decision making processes. The other thing, like I know that these might be like so high level abstractions, but the second thing that I'm not seeing is like the awareness. So they don't have any situational awareness, such as like we are talking about structures or some mechanical spaces in our projects, and they have like some certain ideas in their mind. They thought they are right, and but all they need to do is just looking at the out the window and see how structures in the city looks like, or how mechanical spaces, or how architectural facades are built. So most of the time, I'm showing them like, let's look at out the window and see like what's going on, and it just creates this moment of enlightenment for them. So they realize there are multiple ways to deal with these type of issues. And the other thing that I've been thinking lately is the way we are packaging this content, the educational content. So, like a few weeks ago during our meeting, we discussed this. Like, they are not reading, and in our syllabus there are required readings. And I told myself that I wish this author has some sort of Instagram account that he puts his like writings in a visual sense, so we will be able to share the Instagram account with students, and they will engage with that content, or they have like some sort of like curiosity about it. And another point, please let me know if I'm taking too much time, but this is kind of related with my experience. When I was in undergrad, my school was kind of infamous because of their traditional teaching methods. Majority of professors didn't want to use technology at that time, the computer-aided design. And when we graduated, we realized the only thing that put us into a job is like our skill set in computer-aided design. Probably it's going to happen to them as well. And for me, it was a big problem because I idealize all these traditional hand-drawn, like as you did, those like sacred, almost ritualistic approaches as an educational content. But the market, the reality is not like that. And probably they are going to have like a deeper issues than us because it's going to be problematic when they graduate and very soon. And it's also reminded me this, the checklist mentality. So it's a very binary mentality. which means the computer is eventually going to be better than humans. So if you rely on that, if you align with that idea, you will fail. That's the reality of technology today. So I think we need to sit down and do these type of things together to shape the content we are sharing with our students.
So this is me saying, so he's watching this remotely against and she's sort of response. So just another point of view. She thinks there's a balance in everything and not to lose the sight of why curriculum and rubrics exist. The practice of the deliverable is lacking in actual architecture practice already. We need the students to value timely deliverables as a practice in leadership, especially as future architects. So she's making the vote for curriculum exists for a reason. And that's why we meet curriculum, and that's why we set it to be a certain way and to follow it. Part of the project as well.
So, to change of subject in a way, but I think it's a good segue into AI in teaching because I think this whole workshop came out of this idea to talk about AI and policy around it, and there's so much uncertainty. So looking at your presentation, I was kind of inspired, and at the same time, I wanted to ask you how you respond to students' works when they bring AI generated content, and how are you sure, or what kind of best practices you rely on to, distinguish if it's a good work or bad work, and to do or not to do list. Do you have any? And I want to ask all of you on that question of how to use AI, and then if the department has to have a direction on that. Sorry, too much, but I think it also relates to NAB. Like, how do we incorporate AI in education to accreditation in the future?
Gene, before you hand it off, could you just tell us what were the criteria for making the groups using AI? Like, you input assessments of your students into a chat. Yes, what was that? Can you talk to
Yeah, so I used criteria such as their backgrounds, demographics, and it was voluntary, by the way. And then work commitment outside of school in hours, languages they spoke, tools they can use, they're proficient with, and their interests of that, like what they're interested in learning in this specific course. So those are the criteria.
You gave it a score?
I gave it weights, and then ChatGPT did its own calculation, and I do not know how it actually, processes information, but it gave me like a one-liner explanation of the logic behind it. But yeah.
And did you see that those groups performed?
Yeah. So I actually wanted to touch base on that in my presentation, but I forgot to talk about it. I think personally, I think it worked really well, and I did survey the students on the effectiveness of AI in grouping, and most of them actually enjoyed it. Some of them actually weren't interested enough to really evaluate. But in the conference that I presented at, I also shared with the people that I do not have scientific comparison between the group that was formed, what was in that AI system of grouping versus the traditional model. So that's something that I'm thinking of working on in the future as I go on. Yeah.
So did you say have this information make groups, or did you say like I want groups that are balanced? Like did you give it a prompt, or was it just like this is the information I have, I need groups of three, go ahead. Like can you tell me?
Yeah, so I think the criteria and the weights were the prompt. So I had the data, and then I said, oh, maybe in this group formation, the most important thing, which counts up to 80% of importance, is the diversity, for example. And then the others are 20%, 10%, 5%, 3%, 1%, and then it was actually like multiple iterations of it, but basically telling it to use data, but
weighted differently. Yeah. I know it's not the most scientific way to do it, but it was just a way to test out, of mixing people into different groups. But again, like I want to ask all of you on the best practices of using AI in education. So in the study that I did, the idea was like, and it's totally out of the syllabus, like I just initiated. The idea was to show them the space of possibility. So in a way, it was not, evaluation type of exercise, but more like an exploration type of exercise. But one thing when it comes to evaluating AI work or human plus AI work, I was reading this book by Catherine Hales, and she's a very famous literature critic, and she's giving this example. They were testing AI and asked them to write poems or like some books or some fictional stories. And what she argues that like we human beings doesn't have the understanding or aesthetic heritage to evaluate the aesthetics of AI. So which is a very strange thing. So there are a lot of things to explore there. I don't know how we can evaluate the success when AI comes to that equation. But obviously there will be like some sort of like assemblage of creativity in the near future. Humans sharing these tools and using these tools and creating like some outcomes. But I don't have any idea like how we are like capable to evaluate that. Yes, we can evaluate that from our own, heritage of aesthetics and all these like last few centuries of work, and from that perspective. But this technology just shows like a lot of interesting stuff, which is unprecedented. So how we can adapt to that is a very big question, in my opinion.
That's something, the exercise that you did, had a purpose, or it was just an object?
No, it doesn't have a purpose, but I think like the main purpose was just them to play with it, But at the same time, being aware that they are using a digital product, they are sharing their design data. Like I asked them like rigorously, like, are you sure this image going to be public forever? So that's also another side of the AI discussion, right? So for these technologies, we are all end users. Whether you are an architect or designer or whatever you are doing, it just renders you as an end user, and and we creators, architects, we I think like as a some sort of like cultural thing, we are proud creators of a lot of things, right? So, but in this sense, like we are just end users, like everyone else. So it's also creates a very interesting weight on how we are approaching this. And if we think about all these like computer aided design companies such as Autodesk or Rhino, they are all now, I believe, investing on AI tools because they are like software companies, not architectural design companies, or they just want to maximize their profits. So it's also creates an interesting future for us to think and be prepared. So.
In the so AI continues sort of in way you're using it requires a certain amount of prompt writing. So, did you observe the students' thought process in developing creative, and was that further modified by their particular culture, language skills, the way that we're talking about it?
Yeah, I think it will be eventually helpful for students because like when we start creating these prompts, that particular modality uh, brings that vocabulary list that often overlooked by students. Like their immediate attention goes to all these like operational vocabulary. So in that sense, it was super helpful. So they know what certain vocabulary means visually after testing it over there. So to incentivize that type of relationship with the particular content, I think AI can be super useful. Uh, but I don't know like how we can like embed that for daily communications of emails. And people nowadays like using AI to reply emails, and I realize there are like some strange moments where your AI and their AI kind of like communicating with each other on behalf of you instead of you communicating with that certain people. But yeah, like it can be super helpful if we somehow like find a leverage to how to embed to that processes.
If I tested AI in a curriculum, three different ways. One was design for when they had to design a song. They spent enormous amount of time trying to follow everything. But if you kind of thought about this is one thing, this is another thing, seeing how so we're just using AI that's already embedded in the workshop, right? And what I've noticed is that if the students' language switches to acting, the result was not as like it seems like you're relying more on the language to do more of the visual work. The second time that I used it was in level one summer program, where we did the opposite of essentially what you're doing. We had the students create something analog as the outcome of it, write a really nice description of what you're trying to achieve in that analog making, and then input it into ChatGPT or something similar to create an image, and we had them sort of compare. Like, and there are times when it's completely off the chart, right? Like just like not aligning at all. Sometimes it creates really great things, right? So then that sort of became the conversation about at what point is the limit of the language? Because it can only describe so much, right? There's like something that is inherently in the making and the visual aspect of it, right? The third one is an ongoing process with my students this semester, using it as part of the research part of it. And I think they're discovering the faults in the AI. But that's like a separate thing. But like aside with the language and visual, like where it fails, where it aligns, it seems like it's not quite there yet.
I think there are like a lot of tools and modalities to experiment with. So, for example, lately I've been experimenting this where I took photos in New York City and I upload that photo to AI and ask description of that image. So, and then I use those descriptions to generate new images by using AI. So there are a lot of ways that we can experiment and make the educational content like more interesting and experimental. Yeah, like those are. And by the way, this is like happening so fast. So the presentation that I shared, like I did it a few years ago, but now I think it's completely outdated. Like it's old right now in terms of like these discussions and technologies. So it is very hard to keep up with this as well.
I've been introduced to AI because I've been like listening to people. I really shouldn't speak into this mic. I feel like this is not going to be a well-read thing, but I guess I'm a little dubious, right? Because I just recently watched the documentary on Louis Sullivan and asked my students to watch it, read the essay again, and we've departed that kind of architecture where he designed everything, right? The railings, the balusters, the light fixtures, the ornament that went on, all that stuff, and we've let that kind of expertise go. We're not doing it anymore, and when CAD came on the scene, we lost kind of forget hand drafting. We lost the ability to sketch as well. People don't really sketch on the same level. And I guess this is not a fully formed thought, but with each kind of advancement in technology, architects and the industry, our profession, has let go of something. And we've become less specialized. We've become less necessary. And like today I was looking at an AI tool, it's Flitch.ai or something that generates floor plans based on, I love generating floor plans. I love sitting down and sketching out a floor plan and coming up with what is the criteria for this floor plan? What is the thing that matters? And maybe it's a tool that I can use because I've done it, and you guys have done it, and we'll put in the right prompt and we'll try and tweak it. But what about the people coming up now? Are you just going to generate this stuff? How do you learn what is the right prompt? And is that the right prompt for that problem? Is that the right prompt in that moment? What are you kind of designing for? It's just a thought, and it's made me like really kind of nervous because at the co-working space I work at, everyone's heard this, but a bunch of people are programmers who have their own startups, and they're like, I had an intern, I had 2 interns, I had a staff member, I let them all go because I have ChatGPT write my stuff, and then I edit it, and it saves me time. I remember there being like a bunch of CAD drafters, they're gone, and I'm not saying that's a job anyone should aspire to or anything like that, but there is going to be a fall off, there's going to be a change, and I don't know how to handle it, you brought the point of we're looking for people who are self-starters, or are we looking at, or not, or we're looking for people who can write a good prompt. I don't know, like what's the thing we're going to teach for the future? I don't know what that is, and I don't know how we get there. And I think it goes back to who are we trying to turn these students into? Like, what is the end product? And maybe there's a bunch of tracks.
I just had a couple observations listening to this. I think that part of it at the beginning of their time here, we're teaching them to be architecture students, maybe first before we teach them to be professionals. They don't come here just like us, but in a different way. When we started architecture school, we don't know how to be an architecture student yet. We sort of have to learn that first, and then we can learn to become a professional because it's something completely different. And I think part of it too, I remember from school too, I learned a lot by observing my fellow students, the ones that were really good. Okay, well they are understanding something. I'm not necessarily trying to copy what they do, but learn from them how they're doing things. And there's as much of that going on, or maybe more than just from the professors, right? So I think that's part of it. And then a little bit off track, kind of what you're saying. We have some family members, really cousins that are both philosophy professors at the University of Illinois, and their world is completely turned upside down by AI. So they used to send the students off to write their papers at home and then turn them in, and then they would grade them, and they can no longer. So they have to have them write in class. That's the only, with every device turned off, that's the only way that they can test to see if they're understanding the content. So I feel like we're lucky in a way. We haven't reached that point yet, but maybe it will happen soon. So we'll have to adapt to something like that as teachers.
Emily, you said when I turned this article into a book, into Instagram person channel and something. There are AI tools that take a lecture and turn it into just it's just is this what you want to accept? Right? Is that okay that your focus is not can sit? I'm not trying.
Yeah, I'm feeling like when we discuss about these things, I'm feeling a little bit powerless and feeling sad because unfortunately there are bigger forces than us, which we can summarize as markets, who favors these type of results, right? So yes, I really like to sit down and prepare a floor plan of a residential building and thinking about it, imagining how people going to live their lives in there. But the real estate developer who bring that project to my table doesn't want to do that. They don't care. They just want to, or any other, measurements. I think markets will somehow align with these technologies. If we think about the past, it always happens like that. But I think, to your point, there are a lot of studies that AI and the way we are using AI can be impact our way of thinking and our critical thinking abilities extremely negatively. So maybe the answer to all these AI discussion comes to this moment, that how we can make these young people better critical thinkers, whether using AI or not. So that's the issue maybe, and I'm still trying to explore how we can align or how we can deal with that.
So I believe that to wrap up. Uh, I believe this was the same topic during the Industrial Revolution. The machines are taking over, humans are not going to be necessary, and the technology keep moving forward, and humans are still needed to every single process. So I believe that us as instructors, we have to think how can we make AI a tool, and how can we balance, going back to the balance, how can we balance the tool and instead of having the students relying on that. So how can we use that as a tool where the students are able to use it, but still knowing that it's a tool and they cannot rely 100% on it. I mean, going to the points that you touch for that ChatGPT and how they write, or perhaps what I use in the class is use whatever you want to use to write your paper. Come prepared because we're gonna have a discussion. So you need to know whatever ChatGPT wrote to you. So it just it is a tool, but you still have to do your part. So I believe that that's the new challenge: how to address all these new technologies as tools while still being able to have the students having their input in their academic process.
I'm going to challenge that idea because we designers tend to think about these technologies as tools. And if we think about the computer-aided design revolution, it's also kind of portrayed itself as a tool of efficiency, tool of acceleration. But this shift is a little bit different because it is not like a tool like a iPad pencil. This tool that we are talking about has agentic capabilities, cognitive capabilities, which
make better decisions than you, which creates faster results, like which can do anything. And right now, like there are very advanced tools, like you basically tell them what to do and let them play with your desktop. Like you can give this prompt easily to ChatGPT's agents, like, okay, can you tidy down my desktop? It can do it. Uh, and next step, can you create this building based on these criteria? And it's going to generate that building for you with documentations and everything. Yeah, yes, but are we architects? Are people giving those criteria? Anyone can give criteria. So how we can position ourselves, right? Like how we can find our competitive edge in that situation. Yeah. But again, it has the similar type of knowledge. It has the similar type of agency.
Yeah, I know, but that's where you have to find that criteria, and that's where you have to be able to use it as a tool for you. So that's the opportunity is for you to not allow it to take over you. So you have to.
Yes, and maybe when we think about again markets, market doesn't care whether you make that decision or AI make that decision. So we are losing on that level, I believe.
You will have to find a way to make us necessary for you.
Yeah, maybe.
This is not like we're talking about AI, but you're also talking about values, right? Like, the market deems that we're not necessary, we're out the door. Maybe that's okay. I mean, this is a bone that I pick all the time, complain about. Is like there's so many projects that I go to, renovations that I go to now. It's like the people who built this were not skilled at building. You know, like it's built and it's fine, but it doesn't matter, right? Because the market said it doesn't matter. And someone's gonna live here, someone's gonna pay $2 million for this railing that's about to fall down. And I get your point, and we live it. We live it every day. The market said it's okay, but there are places where that's not true, right? In New York City, it's true that if you build a hovel, someone will pay you $1 million for it. But there are places in this world that's not true because there's, better kind of like people. There's more competitive development. There's more competitive market, and there's more market education coming out of the industry, I suppose. Years ago, I spoke to like a steel fabricator who said he's not part of the union. He left his steel fabricators union, but he started his own school because he felt like the people he was hiring don't know how to fabricate or build with steel. So I'm rambling, but I guess what I'm saying is we also have a responsibility as people in the profession to, I suppose, lobby or educate the world at large. And not to say it in a condescending way, but it does matter how you build. It does matter, the process does matter. And to the point of who is it going to displace? It's not going to displace Peter Zumthor or like the really kind of high-end architects. It's going to displace the rest of the people who are just kind of practicing. I don't know. It's going to happen. How do we deal with it? So, yeah.
I don't know if we've reached that point where we tell AI, please comply with all these local regulations, with all these different city initiatives, with all these public policies that we have. So we are here.
As long as like these notions that we are talking about can turn into some sort of data, it can be done by AI. So, and just think about your daily lives. Everything that you do is data. Your pictures, photos, work can be turned into a quantified data. You can ask like your AI agent that you can act like a Peter Zumthor and create this project, probably it's going to give possible or marketable like solutions and results. That's the I think that's the conundrum that we need to sit down and talk about. Yeah, it's the atmosphere.
So it's 8 o'clock. It's getting. So thank you all for coming. We definitely have to do this more often. Everyone brought up some amazing thoughts. I think what my takeaway from this is we have to consider who we're preparing and what we're preparing them for, and then how we're going to prepare to do that. And it seems like we've come to the conclusion of critical thinking, being able to present with a clear idea, having a clear train of thought, and being able to articulate why you did something. It doesn't matter what tool you use to get there, but I think being able to articulate why you're doing something and what your intention was, I think is really important for our students. And then soft skills, being able to talk, write an email, basic things that I think will help these students succeed in any of them. But this was wonderful. Thank you so much for your inspiration and your thoughts, and have a good evening.
Oh god. I know existential crisis. That was so good. I could have.